$4,000 in repairs in this little Toyota truck. Is it worth it? Let's find out. Welcome back to the Wizard Shop, and before we dive into this really sweet little Toyota truck, I have some information to give you guys. It's come to my attention through multiple phone calls to the shop and also some emails that there is someone out there that is running a scam. They're saying that Ferrari California is part of a giveaway, some sort of a contest, and you guys out there could win my customer's Ferrari. Let me reiterate that. My customer's Ferrari. I don't have the right to give you guys his car. I don't even know where that came from. It's a lie from the pit of hell. It's just totally a lie. So if you've received any information, I think it's called Telegram or something like that, and it even has my icon, this icon right here, and it's an absolute lie. So throw it in the trash, hit the delete button, do not respond to it. That is not something that's happening in the shop. There's no giveaways, no free Ferraris. We're not giving away anything here at the shop. If we were to do a giveaway, it would not be through the comments section in one of our videos. I would tell you about it in the video right now, just like I'm doing. So if you see what they're called bots, they're not even real humans, commenting about giveaway or sweepstakes or something in the comments, don't click on it, don't respond. It's a lie. It didn't come from me. Now, back to the $4,000 in repairs in this truck. This is a 2002 Toyota Tacoma, and it has the very large 2.7 liter four-cylinder, and it has had the entire frame replaced under warranty by Toyota. I don't know how long ago, but it is a common issue with these trucks. So the frame has been taken care of, but there's a lot of other bits and pieces on this truck that have not. So we're going to go through today and talk about what it's going to take to get everything fixed, why it's $4,000, and how I believe it is completely worth it. Let's go ahead and take a look around this thing. So normally this is a good looking truck, but at the moment obviously it doesn't look very good looking with the pieces missing off of it. But we'll go ahead and move around. You can see it has little dents and things here or there in the paint, but it's otherwise in pretty good shape as far as the body is concerned. As you can see on this side, it is in good shape. It's not caved in or beat up. These are really nice little trucks. I really like the Toyota Tacomas. And again, more pieces missing. You're going to find out why here in a minute. The tailgate is not caved in or beat up. It is really a nice truck. And the same story as we go down this side. There's some little scrapes and abrasions in the paint, but that's to be expected because it's a truck that's being used for truck things. And you can see some of the stuff is already apart, but let's go ahead and open the hood and look underneath. These engines are a really good engine. This is the 2.7 liter four-cylinder. You could have gotten a 2.4 or a V6. The 2.4 had roughly 140 horsepower and like 160 pound-feet of torque. This is really a large four-cylinder, almost 3 liters, but it's not a V6, it's a four-cylinder. These have 150 horsepower and almost 180 pound-feet of torque, which is pretty good for a four-cylinder. There's no major issues going on with the engine, and that's to be expected because it's a Toyota. I'm not surprised by that. But there are other issues going on that are underneath the engine that really don't affect the operation of the engine, but nothing's being done up in the top side anyways. Everything's clean and in order. There is some little bit of rust and corrosion on some of the sheet metal and things of that nature, but otherwise in pretty good shape under the hood. So there's no serious issues here, at least on the top side. Let's go ahead and get this thing in the air and take a look underneath. So many of you have probably already guessed some of the issues that are with this truck, and they definitely are rust or corrosion related. We're going to go ahead and take a look underneath, and we're going to immediately run into one of the first problems, which really isn't rust related, but it is the majority of the $4,000 that needs to be done to this vehicle. Let's go ahead and take a look. You can see some rust here going on this cooler. That's a rusty little clamp there. It won't cause any harm for it to sit like that, but if you were to try to mess with it, it may. Kind of really a lot of surface rust on the top of that clamp, and we may just go ahead and replace it with a steel worm style clamp. You can see right here on the oil pan there is a seam that goes along the bottom, and I'll grab the new oil pan and show you what I'm talking about. As you can see from the factory, these are spot welded or some sort of a welding done to this little lower piece right here. You can see it on the inside that there's a little lower area to this oil pan. You can see that somebody in the past has tried to use silicone and try to remedy the problem without doing the majority bulk of the work to solve it correctly. And the customer's complaint was it's leaking from the oil pan. Based on the results of what we see here, we know that just slapping some silicone on it is not going to solve the problem because it's leaking all over again. That means the pan needs to come down, and you can see that this front differential is literally ½ an inch away from the oil pan, which means the differential has to come down. This pays 6 or 7 hours to do this job at $120 an hour for domestic and Asian cars. Obviously, we're going to be much over that because everything is so corroded. We're having to take our time and not snap bolts and not break things. The corrosion on this vehicle is really not that bad as far as functionality, but you just have to be careful and take your time. You just start swinging away with impact wrenches, and pretty soon things start snapping, which means more time. But we'll get this out of the way. Danielson's working on that as we speak. Then we can remove the oil pan and put the new one on. And again, that is probably half of the $4,000 to get all this done. It is very labor intensive. And normally we check wheel play and things like that, but obviously it's all apart right now. We'll have to do that later. But you can see some of the corrosion on here, which it's really typical for these years of Toyota. It's the reason why the frame has been replaced in the past. You can see the frame is in much better condition than the rest of the truck because it's new, or newer. Here's our steering rack. Everything looks good there. Here's our drive shaft. Everything looks good there. There's our transmission. Everything looks pretty decent there. And as we come back, we can see on the exhaust, it's had a catalytic converter replaced at some point. You can see right here where this oxygen sensor mounts that it's all just corroded and rusted. We have advised them to take it to an exhaust shop. It's not a matter of capability, it's that I know that an exhaust shop can do that much cheaper than we can, much faster, and probably have everything on hand and take care of it fast. So that will be taken care of at an exhaust shop. Here we can see on the skid plate underneath the fuel tank, lots of surface rust. Very, very corroded. Yucky, yucky. But it's still intact, still strong, so it's still usable. Here's our rear drive shaft with a double cardan joint. Our exhaust, again, has been replaced back here with a new muffler. This U-joint is good. You can see a lot of the corrosion here on this backing plate. We're not going to do a whole lot about it because it's still functional and still working, but at some point that will become an issue. So with everything we're seeing with the corrosion, you could really get carried away on this truck and start escalating the price really high. We're not here to restore this vehicle. We just want the issues that the customer had complaints with taken care of, and maybe a couple other things. But like I said, we're not here to rip this thing down to the frame and restore it all. Should it be done? You know, that's really up to the customer. Do they want to pay for it? Probably not in this case. Here's our rear differential. Everything looks intact there. And again, some more of the corrosion I'm talking about. Tires are decent. They are winter tires, which is fine because we're getting ready to go into winter. Our spare is holding air. And again, the bumpers are missing. Let's go ahead and get this thing on the ground. So for those of you guys that live up in the salt belts, what they call it, where there's tons of salt in the winter, the Northeast especially, this is common for you guys. It's like, yeah, I don't see a problem here. But that's not common here in Kansas to see this much rust. Let's go ahead and show you guys why the bumper's off. And again, it's because of rust, and it's really bad. You can see here, I can just run my screwdriver all the way through the bumper. Not only is it not safe, but it's also unsightly. And there's little thin spots like that all through this front bumper. But that's not the worst of it. This is the worst of it. And you can see it's just literally crumbling. Same thing with the actual bumper itself. There's spots where I can just put, so you can see here, I can just poke my screwdriver through it. So this is the rear bumper, and you can see where it bolts to the frame here. Some of the stuff is reusable, but obviously this crossbar and the rear bumper cover is totally rusted out and unusable. The front bumper is starting to literally crumble into pieces. So $400 or $500 parts and labor here, $400 or $500 parts and labor there, then you got parts and labor, and that's not all. Let's go ahead and take a look at the fuel filler neck. The customer had a check engine light on, and it was an evap code. And we use our handy dandy smoke tester. It fills the evap system with smoke. And we found that right where this seam is on the fuel filler neck, it would just billow smoke out, which is an evap leak. So we've got a brand new one installed. Let's go take a look at that. So we've talked about evap systems before and how the only reason they exist is to contain fuel vapors in your fuel tank. And there's lots of ways they can leak. There can be pinholes in the lines, there can be purge valves that are failing, but also not just the fuel cap, but the fuel neck itself can fail. You can see here that we have a brand new one installed. Can't really see it through the wheel well, but it's all new neck. We tested it before we put it on. It doesn't leak. It's completely leak-free, so that will solve the check engine light. Anytime you tackle rust like this for a customer and they say, how much is it going to cost? It's kind of an up in the air thing because you don't know, as you guys saw, until you pull the bumpers off and you say, oh wow, that's even rusted. Oh, I didn't know that bracket's unusable, and it just keeps tallying up and up and up. And as you can see on the rear of this vehicle, there's still some corrosion going on, and it's literally opening a can of worms if you start taking stuff apart. You can turn a $4,000 bill easily into $8,000 really, really fast. And then you'll have a very angry customer. All you can do is present it, and they will tell you what they're willing to pay for. I know some of you guys in the comments will say, you really should do this, you really should do that. But really, it's not my choice or your choice. It is the person writing the check to pay for the repairs. And if they say, I want A and B done, but let's skip C and D, I have to skip C and D. So that's just the way it is. So we are an automotive channel, and this is an automotive shop, but we do not do body work. Now these are bumpers, they're just bolt-on, they're very easy to do. They literally unbolt and you bolt a new one on. We have gotten calls for customers wanting paint jobs or collision damage. It's not what we do here. But this is something that we can tackle. We'll get the new bumpers ordered. We'll get all the other things taken care of. I'll let Danielson continue on removing the front differential so we can get that leaky oil pan down. And we'll get everything taken care of. It'll be fully functional. Again, there's still some rusty things on this truck, but it will be safe, it'll be fully functional and usable. And then further down the line, if they want to tackle further items, they can bring it back and we can continue on. So now we will answer the question. $4,000 to take care of all of these issues. is it worth it for this truck? Actually, the customer had to kind of make some phone calls and see if that's something they wanted to do. The answer to that question is, especially in 2022, with crazy inflation going on, absolutely it's worth $4,000. It's worth $7,000 if we wanted to go that far. Let me show you on Bring a Trailer one of these that recently sold. This one's a 2002 with very low mileage, almost $20,000. Obviously, I know this one right here is not worth $20,000. It has way more miles, and obviously it's got some corrosion going on. But even if it's worth only 10, it's still worth putting 4 into it, because you can't go buy another truck for $4,000 that's anywhere near the Toyota quality on this. So yes, it is absolutely worth it. Those questions pop up a lot with customers. Is it worth it? I hear that a lot. Sometimes it's not, and especially 15 years ago, before all this craziness happened, there was a lot of jobs that I turned down, or my shop boss turned down, because no, it was not worth it at that time. But things are different today. This is definitely worth the $4,000. And we have the go-ahead from the customer. They said, go for it. I can't buy another truck for that. If you're curious what kind of tools that we use in the shop or Danielson uses, check my Amazon affiliates link in the description below. We get a small cut and we really appreciate it. And we have lots of updates coming on the bus. You definitely want to hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.